If you're not subscribed to this channel, please make sure to subscribe and set your notifications to all, so that you won't miss any new content.
Spray Rock. Spray-applied polyurethane coatings for structural rehabilitation and protection. Since 1990, Spray Rock has been an innovator in the field of polyurethane technology. Recent developments have made this an increasingly viable and cost-effective method for addressing the many issues affecting aging infrastructure worldwide. Spray-applied polyurethanes are just one of the many trenchless technology options which are fast becoming the rehabilitation and asset life extension solutions of choice for municipalities, utilities, and industries alike. Trenchless methods offer asset owners a strong ROI, with quicker repair times, less disruption to the community and restoration costs, as well as an overall lower cost of ownership when compared to traditional dig and replace methods.
Welcome to another edition of Global Topic. I'm Jim Kunkel. Joining me today is Jeremy Huckabee from Spray Rock, and we're going to have a conversation about structural restoration using polyurethane linings. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. Glad to speak with you.
Hey, if you could go through and provide a little bit of an overview of Spray Rock and importantly, your role at Spray Rock.
Sure. Currently, I'm the general manager for Spray Rock. I've been with Spray Rock since 2016. My role encompasses a lot of different facets of the business, including, managing the financials, handling business development and deploying our team for specific opportunities, as well as customer service and our contractor support team. So I cover a lot of different bases within our company, but overall, I'm responsible for managing the direction and growth of Spray Rock. In terms of an overview of the company, we're 30 years old now. We started in 1990. Our technology and company basically was born out of the CIPP industry back in the 90s, or probably back even further than that, probably going back into the 80s, late 70s. You had cured in place pipe technology where they could address the main line in a water or wastewater system, but they didn't have a way to address the manholes or the unique structures that were tied to that. So our product came along as a way to complement the CIPP process and bring that physical characteristic that cured in place pipe was bringing to the table. So we started as more of a regional company back in the 90s, and then over time we've expanded out to where we cover North America now. We also have a presence in China, Taiwan, and Australia. And we basically go to market through a licensed distributorship where we supply our contractors who we train and license in a given territory to go apply our products. So it's pretty similar to the traditional model that Insituform brought over from Europe into the United States back in the early days, kind of that same licensing model. So that's kind of an overview of where we started and where we are today.
Hey, Jeremy, let me open up this episode by asking you this question. Over the past decade, there's been multiple studies that have shown that the infrastructure in North America is structurally deficient, and each year the potential of critical structural failures increases. Well, this issue is being addressed. The majority of those studies that I mentioned focus on above-ground infrastructure. Let me ask you this. What's the current condition of underground infrastructure?
No, that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up, Jim, because a lot of what happens is it's out of sight, it's out of mind. People don't think about it, but you look back to the most recent report card from the ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers. They gave wastewater infrastructure a D+, and that's obviously not a good grade. What's happening is we've got a lot of aging infrastructure, particularly east of the Mississippi River. Infrastructure that was really meant to serve for a 50 to 60 year period now is pushing 100 years old in a lot of cases. So you've got pipes deteriorating, manholes, and ultimately what's going to happen if we don't address that is you're going to have roads collapsing, issues with buildings where you've got pipes running underneath them. So, that's really the problem is that we don't see it on a day-to-day basis. So we kind of discount it, but really, if you look at the influx of population into these systems and the growth, our civil engineers have estimated that we're going to need $271 billion in the years ahead to get not only current, but also stay ahead of that growth curve and make sure that this infrastructure is going to be able to be sustainable. So yeah, it's a big problem and a big issue.
Yeah, definitely a very big challenge. So how are polyurethane linings used to address the critical needs of underground structural restoration?
Sure. The big thing with polyurethanes is the technology, especially with rigid polyurethanes, over the past years has really come around, has really improved. Polyurethanes traditionally are thought of as flexible materials, that there's not really a rigid component thought to it, but that's where technology is changing. And basically the idea is to be able to rehabilitate an infrastructure or piece of infrastructure in place versus the traditional dig and replace model. That saves engineers and municipalities on several different levels, obviously financially, but also, with the community, the environment, being able to maintain, the environment that we have without creating any kind of damage, also with the public as well, creating less downtime. If you have to dig and replace something, chances are you're going to have to shut down a road, shut down a building, really bring disruption to people's way of life. So with polyurethane technology, you can rehabilitate those assets, go ahead and extend that, and save, the taxpayers a lot of money. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm a taxpayer, so I want to see those funds be utilized and be stretched out to where, we can fix more things versus just focusing on one thing.
For the asset owners of underground infrastructure, what's the benefit of using polyurethane linings against other industry solutions?
Sure. Well, there's, the good thing about the environment in which we're operating is there's a lot of different solutions. So I don't believe there's a silver bullet type answer, if you will. For polyurethanes, it's fast return to service is one of the biggest things, where you don't have downtime and time where you're having to bypass a structure where the cost of doing such is really mounts quickly. The other thing too, especially for a rigid polyurethane material, is structural integrity. You see a lot of pipes or manholes with missing sections or degraded sections that have been spalled out if it's concrete, or maybe it's been worn down if it's steel or metal or corrugated metal, for instance. So what happens is we can design these linings to be able to withstand those forces on the structure and be able to bring back structural integrity and then be able to restore that asset to service in a very short period of time.
Very interesting. Jeremy, we've had a very good conversation here. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would want to leave with the viewers of this episode?
I would say, do your due diligence. Make sure you do your homework, on the company, the product. Look at your third-party test. Address the surface preparation needs. With polyurethane technology, it's really no different than other technologies. The surface preparation is the key, and most generally, it's pretty similar to what you see with other technologies in the marketplace. And the other thing too is, you got to keep in mind what you want for the outcome. What are you wanting the technology or product you're selecting to do? So you've got to begin with the end in mind. That to me is important, because so many times people try to put products in a situation and do something they're never really meant to do. So that's why we have engineers on staff that engage with municipalities, with civil engineers in the marketplace to make sure that our product is a fit for them, if that's the case. And if it is, that's great. But then there's always situations we run into where it's not a fit, and we walk away from that, because ultimately it's about giving the owners and obviously the taxpayers and constituents peace of mind that they're getting what they paid for. They're getting a long-term solution where they don't have to keep going back over and over again to try to fix the same problem. So those are some things I would definitely keep in mind, and remind people that that's a good way to approach a project or repairing a piece of infrastructure.
That's a great takeaway. For the viewers, I will have in the video description a link to the Spray Rock website, which has additional information regarding product solutions and also contact information if you're looking to talk to their engineering team or if you're looking to talk to their product support and also looking at their network of providers out there. Jeremy, I thank you so much for coming on today.
Jim, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Hey, have a great day.
You too. Take care.